Okay, I got a really interesting topic for you for a gardening video. Pretty exciting about this because it addresses a lot of problems in society. So, I've been listening to other videos by other people, and in some of those videos, you'll hear people talk about fertility problems, male fertility and female fertility. You know, some of them they'll mention that they had, testosterone counts checked and it didn't work out, it wasn't good. And in others, they talk about female issues of a similar thing. And I was listening to these, and it just clicked in my head, and I realized I knew ideas that can help people on this. And this is from experience. In my experience, I am not taking on any medical advice. This is just pure agriculture knowledge. Um, you would be surprised how many problems in society can be solved through agricultural knowledge. Now, to give you an idea, in one of my recent videos, I show a picture of two apples that were homegrown through home methods, home fertility, and how many seeds came from two apples together. In those two apples, there's about 19 seeds, averaging about 9 each. Okay, that's a lot of seeds. When you go to the store bought apples, you will average 4 or 5 seeds each. Okay, this makes a difference to know this. The stuff you buy in the stores, you should have store bought food. Okay, I'm not against store bought food. And you need food affordability. So store bought food serves a purpose. If anything, I would encourage you to get store bought food because it's not feasible to make everything yourself in society. But there are some things that you notice from gardening. Okay, when you garden, when you open up that ripe, vine ripe, fresh tomato, you very quickly notice how juicy it is and how pure it is and how it's got so much delicious flavor in it. And then part of that delicious flavor, it's got adequate nutrients. It's full of the right stuff to produce the best tomatoes. Okay. And when you get that, that comes from heavy nutrition and having adequate water, fertility, nutrients, sunshine. And when you get those, homegrown tomatoes that are not commercially grown, at least not with commercial chemicals. Okay, commercial farms use chemicals. Now, because you're trying to feed a large number of people in society, you have to have those. They serve a function. I'm not against that. But you will quickly notice on commercially grown, especially commercially grown with fertilizers that are chemical fertilizers, etc., that are not natural fertilizers, when you open up those apples or tomatoes or whatever, they will be drier and they won't have as many seeds. Okay, you look in there, there's hardly any seeds. There's lots of vegetable pulp, but it's also dry. It's not got adequate water. It's almost in the taste isn't there. The taste isn't there because the nutrients aren't as good. Okay, that's how it works. You can compare if you put two tomatoes in front of someone who was a good gardener who had experience, and if one of those was the store bought tomato and one of them wasn't, most gardeners would be able to tell right away which one was the homemade, homegrown tomato. Because the homemade, homegrown one is going to have more water content. It's also going to have more seeds on the inside. Okay, so if you want good food, when you open it up, like open up a tomato or an apple, you can look at how many seeds are in it. And you can do this for a lot of vegetables. And part of why this works is an organism's natural instinct is to reproduce. So if it has the nutrients to do so, it will make the seeds. If it doesn't have adequate nutrients, it won't have as many seeds. This is why the example of the apples matters. So when I open up a store-bought apple from my area, it'll have 4 to 5 seeds. If I open up the apples from our backyard tree that has not had commercial chemical fertilizers, that is naturally cultivated and cared for, the flavor will be intensely better on the homemade apples. There'll be more seeds, more nutrition. Same with the tomatoes. When I raise cantaloupes or melons, they'll be absolutely delicious. Now, if you think about this, this is how biological organisms are. Okay? If they have more nutrition, they'll have more fertility. So if you find people are saying they're not as fertile as they used to be and they're having trouble reproducing. Why do you think that is? It's because they're getting all this food that looks desirable. It's made to be sold and be desirable based on appearance and price. It is not made for nutrition. And people have you can't you can't get really great nutrition from something that is built for, mass production without care, without individual attention. This is why you want to learn about gardening. And this knowledge can help you to fix this. So if you're running into people that are having fertility issues, they need to get into homemade, homegrown stuff. Now, one of the issues with that though is the minute you look for a farm that's claiming it's organic, because money changes hands, that's not necessarily the case. Okay? A lot of people sell stuff catering to this inside label that they know people want, the homemade farm fresh stuff. And there's even a lot of con games where people will go buy a store bought, store made vegetables from their local, let's say Walmart or whatever, and then they'll relabel it as homemade that they grown themselves. It's cheating. There's been people that have been caught by this. You can tell though because homemade stuff is not going to be uniform and it's not always going to look really great. So if I pulled out a real home garden's tomatoes, let's say I pull in a load, they're not going to be all uniform. You're going to see a lot of differences in sizes and shapes. And the store bought ones are going to be the opposite. A lot of them will look uniform. Now, if you know people with fertility issues, this is the kind of thing they need to know. And this is the same with dogs. People are finding that the really processed food that their dogs and cats have been fed on for their whole life, their dogs and cats aren't living as long as, their grandparents' time. And that's why. I come from a family of veterinarians. There was more than one veterinarian in my family. They were farm veterinarians. And I was exposed to this knowledge even before I became a gardener. And it was like dinner table material that, you'd ask, so and so about what kind of cases they had during the day, and you'd hear about it. And after being around that your whole life, and then doing the gardening, and you're starting to see what's going on in society, you can't help but think, I could say something. I could help people with this. I just have to tell them what's going on. If only people would listen. That's the catch, though. People are programmed to only accept knowledge from somebody with this certificate of authority. And that's not helping things either. People need to learn by study and by faith, learn their own knowledge, sort truth from error. This is why you can't always trust authority that is based on solely on I'm the smartest guy or I'm the certified engineer or whatever. You need to get beyond that. Do your own experiments and confirm what the things you hear from other people are real, because there are people who twist the knowledge to their own gain and whatever suits their version of pushing themselves up. So go back, learn gardening, learn nutrition. You could improve your nutrition. Your kids would be healthier too. Why do you think people are so vulnerable now with all these new illnesses? They're getting food in the stores that is not healthy like it used to be. You want to fix your family, this is how you got to get into things, and you need to go back to basics to learn how to grow and find your own healthy food. You're better off learning how to grow and do stuff yourself. It doesn't mean you do everything yourself. You could have maybe one or two of your dinner items made from, stuff you did a few, and you wouldn't have to do it every day, just a few times a week. And then you supplement that with what you can't do yourself, and you just keep trying, and then you adjust. You over time slowly adjust the percentage of what you're making yourself to be a little bit bigger and be less dependent on others. The main issue is the motives of others. They can have harmful intent. Even they might not want to hurt you, but their intent of wanting others to give them everything they have is another harmful intent. There's people who don't want to share in this world and that don't believe in a middle class. Anyway, I hope this thought will help people. Thank you. Please like and subscribe.